Hello, folks. Welcome to the Genuinely Interested podcast. My name is Roy Bensby, and I'm your host. And I want to explain a little bit about the podcast before we start the show this week. This podcast is an opportunity for me to speak with some of the most interesting people I know that I can find on the internet. So, either with amazing talents or achievements or just unbelievable life stories or invaluable insights into areas that they have dedicated their lives to studying. I sit down with these amazing individuals from all across the world. Really, I've talked to people from Slovenia to the Czech Republic to Australia to countries in Africa and South America, really just all over the world. And I try to ask them the questions that will hopefully help you extract something valuable or learn something new or just get inspired by. And I do hope that you do get inspired by these talks with some sort of a call to action, maybe change something that you wanted to change for a while, or even just enjoy, detaching from the world for an hour and listening to some great conversations. So whatever it is that you get from this, I do hope that you extract something from it and enjoy the conversations. All these episodes are available on all the major podcast platforms, iTunes, Spotify, Google, and the rest of them. You can also find the episodes on my website, which is roybensv.com. You can find a lot of other information about me there as well, from photos to a little bit more insights into who I am, if you're interested. And, you can always go to social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me there. I'm pretty active on both those platforms, although the only ones I have. And I try to post regularly so you can stay up to date. And also be sure to put your email on the website. I shoot emails out with updates, news, any new current information that I have will be sent via those emails and social media platforms. So yeah, make sure you're in the loop. All right. Today on the podcast, we have Peter Santenello. Peter is I guess he's a hybrid of a travel vlogger, a journalist, a YouTuber, a travel show host, kind of all rolled into one. He has one of the most interesting, captivating YouTube channels that I've come across, where he just travels to countries that not a lot of people, at least from the West, travel to. Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Eritrea, just countries that are not on anyone's hot list of hot travel places to go to in 2020 or 2021. But the stories that he brings from there are amazing. He really has a way to connect with people and share their stories. If it's in Pakistan or India, he'll just drop himself off kind of in the middle of nowhere and just connect with people. And they show him around. And it's the other story that maybe Hollywood or the media doesn't really tell you, or doesn't really show you. It's almost like a behind the scenes of what the country is. And he doesn't go into the politics. He doesn't go into or religious or government. He doesn't go into all that stuff. He just talks to people, and he tries to get an honest conversation with them and an honest look into how they live. And 99% of the time, it seems like, and according to him as well, he's got really amazing interactions with people. So it's really interesting to see. It's not what you would think. There's some of these countries where he went, where I wouldn't think that existed in those countries. So I think we just have blinders on to at least half the world. And it's amazing when someone like him goes and he just shows you that, hey, look, it's not as bad as the media makes it seem to be. And people are, for the most part, really nice, as nice as they can be in any country. And that essentially we're all the same. We all plus minus want the same things. So we had an amazing chat. I think this was one of my longest podcasts, probably around 2 hours or so, of just really great, insightful conversations with someone who's traveled the world, seen things. Like, this guy could write, 7 books and 3 Hollywood movies be done about him, and it probably wouldn't even be half of his story. So he's really accumulated a lifetime's worth of stories, and he shared some of them on this podcast. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy this week's podcast with Peter Santenello. Enjoy, everyone.
The Genuinely Interested Podcast.
Hey, Peter.
Hello.
How you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here.
Thanks for doing the podcast, man. I really appreciate it. Where are you located in the world right now?
We're in San Francisco. My wife and I just moved here back to the States a couple months ago, and we moved to San Francisco a month ago.
Okay. Why? Because you've been in Ukraine for the last few years, right?
Yeah, 4 years. So the reason was, with COVID times, I had plans of doing a lot of Middle Eastern shoots, making videos in Middle Eastern countries, and then the spring and summer, and then COVID hit and travel became difficult, and then we sort of foresaw there's going to be another lockdown coming probably, or it's going to be harder to travel, and so we're looking at going to Italy because I have an Italian passport also, and then I was like, well, what if we're just totally stuck in one country? What could I make for content? And I was thinking of Italy, and my Italian's terrible, and what am I going to really get there? Or, well, go back to the US. And we made a pros and cons list, and the US came out on top because there are plenty of stories here. There's plenty of content, and it's I think a good time to be here for that. So yeah, I didn't think we were going to move back to the US for a long time, but it just happened quickly. And I'm glad. It's really good to be back, actually.
I don't think anyone thought that they would be doing anything that they're doing currently in 2020. This year threw everyone for a loop. I didn't think I'd be in Connecticut for the good majority of the year, yet here I am.
Right. Yeah, it's been crazy. And, in the Slavic world, when I first moved there, I would ask, get in conversations, and a very American way of saying things like, oh, what do you plan, in 3 years? What do you, where do you want to be, or something like that? And people would look at me with the most confused look, like, why you ask me that? Why would you even say that? And because in that part of the world, there's so much instability historically that nobody really looks that far out. And now I get it, because with COVID, it's hard to really look out and like plan, what am I going to be doing exactly in two years or whatever. It's like hard to know.
That's so funny that they do that. And I think that's probably, there are many perks, but that's one of the biggest ones, kind of realizing everyone's outlook is so different, right? Like here, it's like, yes, you have to, what's your 10-year plan, or what do you want to be when you grow up? And then you go to some other places and they're like, I don't know what's going on next week.
Right. Yeah. And there's the pro to it is you live more in the moment. The con to it is if you're not, setting things up towards a direction, then it can be tougher to get there, I think.
Yeah. So, you've been traveling for a very long time, and I kind of went really, really back on the channel, and Eritrea, Tajikistan, Chernobyl, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kyrgyzstan, these aren't exactly top of the list when people are like, what's my next destination for vacation? It's not exactly a hot tourist spot. We can put it that way. But what, take us back a little bit. Maybe, what were you doing initially? Why did you set out to do this? Why go to these places in the first place? Just give us a little bit of background.
Yeah. So I grew up on the East Coast in Vermont. All my family's from New York City. My dad moved us up to Vermont, and we never traveled anywhere. And I was always curious about the world. And Vermont is very isolated, especially at that time.
Yeah.
And there were no intermingling of cultures, really. It was just white people, and it was, going to New York and Montreal was amazing because there was so much action and activity and stimulation. So I always had a goal to go to Europe. And I think it was at 22, I was living in Lake Tahoe, California. And I said, by 24, I'm going to have $20,000 saved. And this is basically last century. This is in 2001, I think that's the time I left. So saved up 20 grand, was going to go to Europe for 7 months, get a Ducati motorcycle, ride it through Italy, ship it back to the States, and then figure out my life, figure out my career, right? And so that 7 months turned into a couple years because I was overseas. I'm like, you know what? I can always get a motorcycle. It's a material thing, but I won't be able to always have this opportunity. So I just kept going. And the further east I went, the more exciting it became. Georgia, the Republic of Georgia was a big stepping stone. At that time, it was extremely corrupt. Mm-hmm. We got off the plane. Well, it was me and the mafioso and the businessman, which was everyone else. And all the BMWs and Mercedes came up on the runway and took everyone away. It was just me in the airport. And I walked in and the guard asked for a bribe, not a visa, not to pay for a visa charge. To get into the airport of that country, I had to pay a bribe. That's how corrupt it was at that time.
Jesus.
Yeah. But then I got in, I spent a month there and I met
How much did you pay him?
It was like $20.
That's nothing.
Yeah. And it's just sort of at that time, it made Russian corruption look like Mary Poppins. I mean, it was hardcore. They would just set up checkpoints and you had to pay to go by them, basically. So a month there, got lost in the Caucasus Mountains, met all these interesting characters. And then it's sort of like a gateway drug. It's like you're smoking marijuana. And then you're like, all right, what's the next step here? And like the LSD is, going into the stands.
Yeah.
Kyrgyzstan was like the most forbidden at the time. And it was really difficult to travel that part of the world in early 2000s. And it just became just this challenge in wanting to go in deeper and deeper because these places offered so much. Yeah, they're economically destroyed and there's all sorts of corruption and the environment's trashed and all these things, but they're amazing gems, especially at that time when no one was really there.
Yeah.
Traveling. So I went around the world. I actually was going to go to Australia the next winter and stay with a friend. And I'm like, this is like going home. I went back to Thailand, got a job teaching English, stayed there for the winter. And so it was a 2-year trip. I got back to the States and, just got back to Lake Tahoe, and it was weird sort of adjusting back in. I guess that changed me for life. It was 50 countries, 2 years. And that just sort of opened things up to me wanting to, I came back in a bunch of debt. I took out credit card advances in Uzbekistan. I think I was 20,000 in debt. So it took me like a year to get out of debt.
Yeah.
And then I actually went back to college after that because I dropped out to do all this stuff. So, that's how I got started. And ever since I'm 43 now. I don't want to bring you through the whole chronological, the whole order of my life, but it's been quite a few chapters, but this travel thing has always been a big one. And I tried to make a travel TV show. This was always my dream. And it was 2010. And I saved up the money and went with a cameraman. Poor guy. I totally destroyed him over in Georgia, actually. I went back to Georgia. And, it was sort of when YouTube was getting going. I was afraid of editing. I didn't even want to get near a computer to edit. I tried pitching it to all these networks. Nothing ever really worked out. And I went on to creating another business. And then oddly enough, when I lived in Ukraine, I lived with this family that was displaced from the war with Russia. So they were on basically the front, right near the Russian border. Their apartment got bombed out and they moved to the countryside. And it's a long story how I found them, but I found them and I lived with them for 6 weeks and I made a documentary series out of that experience.
Wow.
This family had no money, but just was beautiful. And so that's how it sort of started, making videos. And then I was very slow and I'm video here, video there. I had another business I was running from abroad in the States and that consumed a lot of my time. And now the last year and a half, I've been really focused on making these videos around the world. And now it's the US because with COVID can't go anywhere, but I'm really excited to be back here. And actually I've learned so much about America by being outside of it. And actually through my wife, who's Ukrainian, who makes all these observations for me.
Yeah. And, but I guess why the appeal though? Because if you're in Italy, right, you can go, there's so many beautiful places from Slovenia to, it's endless, right? You can go to Northern Africa, you can go to anywhere, right? But you kind of go in the opposite direction of the least visited, most dangerous, like you said, most corrupt kind of places. Yeah. Why the appeal to go in that direction?
It's almost like a barrier to entry because it looks so terrifying from the surface. Actually, if you can penetrate that, this is when people are inviting you to their homes. You're getting much deeper into the culture because you're more of a novelty. You know, they don't see many outsiders. I remember in Uzbekistan, the biggest dream for people was to see the ocean one day. It's such a landlocked part of the world. And so Italy's accustomed to tourists, and Italy's great. I love Italy. That's a different type of travel. That's like, you know, I want to go enjoy and, you know, see beautiful architecture and eat great food and, you know, not be challenged much, let's say. I'd say that's more of a vacation. These other places are more like you're going to get life lessons in them. You're going to be pushed at times. It's not always going to be comfortable. You can make it comfortable, though, if you want. You can fly in any one of these countries, stay at a nice Western chain hotel, and really isolate yourself. But if you want to get into it, if you want to dig into it, you know, you're going to be invited to weddings and all different sorts of things and be, you know, I was giving a speech on the border of Afghanistan at a wedding in Russian, and my Russian was terrible. And, it was like I was a politician talking about the good people of Uzbekistan. And they're all clapping, and like there was a big party. It didn't matter, you know. And there's those sorts of things where I think when life's all done, you look back and you're like, yeah, that was pretty cool. I'm glad I did that.
Dude, man, you need a movie or a book or something. I mean, come on, some of those experiences. But I mean, some of those places, they probably, you know, you get there and you're kind of the main attraction, like this tall white guy out of nowhere. They probably haven't seen anything like you for centuries. And is that a benefit or is that a disadvantage, do you think?
I like the whole challenge of being an outcast and making things work. There's something really fun, or there's a challenge to it, right? Like, how are you going to make this situation work? You're at a border. You're the only white guy. The guards are drunk as hell, and they want to extort some money from you. But how are you going to make this situation go well? Well, you talk to the woman that has kids, and all of a sudden you're in with the kids, and you know, when you're in with the kids, people seem to like you more, and then you're giving high fives to these guys that are drunk with AKs instead of them extorting money out of you. So it's a twisted form of pleasure. Maybe I enjoy that. It's, you know, not all the time, probably not as much now as I did when I was younger.
Yeah.
But it just depends your personality type. If you want things predictable and calculated, then these places are probably not the ones to go to.
Yeah. I mean, it was.
But then again, you can go on some tour and you can, you know, be isolated from all the challenges, and you can have a great experience also if that's the way you travel. No, but
what you seem to do is just throw yourself in the mix, middle of nowhere. And I you know, in the beginning when I saw it, I was like, is this fixed? It almost seemed like too easy to be true. You know what I mean? Like you're just dropped off somewhere. You start talking to people. You make friends. They take you around. They show you, like in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
You're just walking. Some guy honks.
Yeah.
You go in his car and he shows you around. And I'm like, no, he has to know this guy, right? And then you don't know the guy. How does that even work? Huh. Is it? I mean, I don't know. What do you credit it to? Like some energy that you have, some vibes you put out? Because all right. If I'm in Saudi Arabia, right, and this, and again, this is with all the context of Saudi Arabia and all the information I have about Saudi Arabia and maybe some of the bias that I have. Yeah, I'm thinking, all right, this guy is going to take me somewhere and chop my head off. Like some random guy is telling me, hey, come into my car, I take you for a ride. Like that's not good. But you just voluntarily go in and you guys have a great time.
Well, I think at least when I was flying into Saudi, there's definitely, I don't know if butterflies are the right word, but probably like there's some apprehension, right? You're thinking, okay, look at what we've seen, and they're going to probably hate most Americans. And well, then things change quickly when you put your feet on the ground somewhere and you feel the place and you talk to people. And I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, but that first day, I wanted to capture my, you know, it was my first video there, and that was perfect for a video, right? Some spontaneous adventure with a local. I just felt it. My intuition has led me down the wrong road once traveling, and I knew it when I was getting into it. I was so desperate for a visa to get into Tajikistan. This Uzbek guy said he could get it to me. I stayed with him. I was poisoned. They stole my money. Okay, that was the one real bad thing that happened. But I knew he wasn't a good guy. And I just wanted this visa so bad that it was dumb of me. Mm-hmm. But these other experiences, like in Saudi, I don't know, you can sort of feel if someone has bad intentions or not. I mean, there are a few tests you can do. You know, are they, you know, if you decline their offer, how do they respond? If you just talk a little more and sort of get into a conversation, you can feel if their intentions are malicious or not, I think. And Saudi is not like it's presented to the world at all. It's actually a very, very hospitable place. It was very pro-American. When I said I was from the U.S., it wasn't a bad thing. Yeah. A lot of them have studied in the U.S. or know someone who has. Mm-hmm. And it's not such a backward place like it's made out to be. Yeah, there are backward elements, and they're idiots in all parts of the world. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, I just came into great experiences there. So that's what I try to capture in my video and bring the viewer into, is this spontaneity, and just the end of the day, subconsciously maybe to diffuse that fear that the people might have about these places.
Yeah, I was very surprised. I have to say that those videos about Saudi Arabia kind of blew my mind. And it's mind blowing, but it's a little frustrating when you're like, all right, and again, like, I don't think it's all rosy, you know, and it's beautiful, but you're kind of annoyed that you've been getting a lot of misinformation as well, right? And the fact that some women were allowed to not, you know, wear any headscarves or anything. Yeah. The place that you went to, that beautiful canyon. Yeah. I would never even think that that kind of place existed there. And it was beautiful. It was like a little paradise. Yeah. How did you even find it?
Through a tip from a local that told me to go there. I rented a car. You know, Saudi Arabia's, it's got good infrastructure for the most part. You can drive around. Okay. Yeah. You can fly around. It's a big country. You know, you don't want to drive everywhere there. You fly across the big swaths of desert, and then you can rent a car. And so a country like that is great. I mean, things work there. It's not like you're in the back roads of India. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a wealthy country to some degree.
Yeah. I mean, how different is it? And I mean, it's very different, but in your eyes, how different is it what the media portrays certain countries versus you being on the ground, talking to people, meeting people? How different?
It's always totally different. And, you know, I don't want to say that everything's perfect in any of these places. And I don't even know if it's misinformation, because look, I always say in an apartment building, like say you're walking by an apartment building in any city, right? Mm-hmm. And there are 1,000 people living in, and there's a couple hundred different apartments. In that apartment building at that time, someone's making love, someone could be getting abused, someone's making the best meal, a kid was just born not long ago, someone's dying. Mm-hmm. They're all existing, they're all true. And that's how I like to look at a lot of this stuff. To say there are no malicious people in Saudi Arabia that are radicalized, no, there are. You don't see them. You know, the government, that's a threat to the government, so they squash that voice. It's not like they want that, but it exists underground for sure. Also, the woman that's an entrepreneur that runs her own life and travels the world, that exists too. So the problem of the media is it just goes for all the negative. That's what gets our attention, right? And so if that's the only window you see into a place, then that's what you think.
Yeah. So the problem, I think, is that they sensationalize and make blanket statements. They categorize a country or a people or an area as just bad or good, right? As if America is only good. America is good, but there's also a lot of, you know, there's obviously crime in America. There's obviously bad stuff that happens, obviously corruption. And I think that just, it happens more in certain countries and less in other countries.
Yep.
But I'm sure even in, authoritarian countries and countries with deep corruption, there are a huge percentage of people that just want to live their life and they just want better for their children. And just like people here would, it's exactly the same, right?
Exactly. And I think it's hard to do, but you can't take it through your own lens, all these places in the world. For example, Saudi Arabia. How would democracy work there? Not too well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have basically 70 tribes. I think it's roughly 70 tribes. And if it was a democracy, then the majority tribe would just win every time. And that would create instability.
Yeah.
And, I'm not one to say the perfect system that would work over there, but they do have a stable country that's functioning pretty well in the modern world.
Yeah.
This type of system might not work there. Probably would.
They have their, they have their issues with canings and leaving the religion and apostasy, all that stuff. Again, not a perfect system, but it looks like it's constantly improving. It looks like it's better now than it was 2 years ago.
Oh yeah. And I mean, the changes there are so dramatic. It's unbelievable. So the government in Jeddah, they tried to bring in Nicki Minaj. Okay. Like a public concert with Nicki Minaj. And I didn't know who Nicki Minaj was until I looked her up on the internet. I'm like, wow, she's half naked pretty much all the time.
Yeah. That's her shtick. Yeah.
Right. And so how is that possible? Right. And then you're in, certain parts of the country like Jeddah, where a lot of women aren't wearing headscarves. And I've never thought that was a reality.
Yeah.
And they are, women can drive now. We in America say, oh, wow, great. What an achievement, the joke. But look, when they couldn't and now they can, it is an achievement and things are changing very quickly. Yeah. And so every country goes on its own journey. And it's hard to completely criticize another country's journey from your perspective, right? And so America's in a little bit of a weird time. And that's every country goes through their weird times.
Yeah.
So
and
just how it is.
There's the remnants of imperialism and colonialism where the Europeans essentially, and they did this in Africa and in the Middle East and perhaps in Asia, where they didn't really, like you said, it's a lot of these areas are tribal. And when they cut up the land afterwards, they didn't really take that into consideration. And they caused a lot of conflict in those areas because we're just going to draw a line, some arbitrary line here. And that's going to be Congo, right? Or whatever other country. And they didn't take a lot of things into consideration when they left these places after they did that.
Yeah. So that nation state concept doesn't exist in a lot of places in the Middle East. It's more of a tribal thing. A great example is the Pashtun people, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Okay, a line was drawn there, but it's like those people have more in common than they do with people from other parts of their own country. So that line bleeds in the sense, not like the actual blood, but it fuses together.
Yeah. And
it's hard to understand for us because we're such a new experiment and we have very strong American identity. And I used to actually criticize that. I said it was over the top and a little ridiculous. Now I get it. I think you have to unify a country somehow and it works pretty well. Even in these times, I think it works pretty well.
Yeah. It's just not necessarily, I think it's a great system and it's potentially the best we've had so far. But it doesn't necessarily mean every other country wants to adopt it or needs to adopt it.
No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. I mean, this country is a great. Basically all the ADD people came from around the world. All the risk takers, right? Yeah. They left what they had to try something new. And America's great for that. America's great for realizing yourself. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize this until I actually lived in different countries. It's not a great place for a 3-hour lunch break like Italy. And personally, I don't want to live that life. I don't want the 3-hour lunch breaks. It's fun a little bit here and there, but for my personality type, no, I'm more driven. I want to be creating. I want to be doing. And America is great for that. There's a strong system of incentive here. and you don't have to have a family name or come from a ton of money to make it happen. And that's the story of the country. People from all over the world have done this. And so that's what's great about here. And you lose things in that too. You know, to get something, you got to lose something. So You're right. Yeah. Every country has its own cadence, how it's going to operate.
Yeah. I came here 8 years ago, and that's something that really attracted me. The fact that you can, if you work hard and be consistent and get creative with what you need to do in order to achieve success, whatever your definition of success is, you can achieve that. And success in the US, unlike if you're successful in France, you're just usually successful in France. If you're successful in the US, you're potentially successful everywhere. Like it's
right. Is that because of English, do you think?
Potentially English. Potentially it's the biggest market. It has the most cultural influence. All the big tech companies are here. All the biggest names in movies and entertainment are here. So if a movie, if music or movies, when they make it here, they just get exported to everywhere else, and everyone wants to see it. And just generally speaking, the level of whatever gets created here is usually high level. I think that's how the world sees it.
Okay. Where did I'm sorry, I didn't know you came from. So what country did you come from?
Israel.
Okay. But you grew up in like American schools or something, because your English sounds like Canadian.
No.
Really?
Yeah. So I have a weird upbringing. I lived in Israel till the age of about 6. And then my dad took us to South Africa. And, I lived there for a few years, and then we came back to Israel, and then we moved back to Ghana in Africa. So I lived there for a few years, and then I came back, did the army, and then after the army, I just kind of started traveling, Australia, South America, all these different places, and then, like I said, about 8 years ago, I moved to the U.S.
Interesting. Yeah, you have like a bit of a New York accent, it sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's just something I adopted. You would think I would have a South African accent because that's my first foray into the English language. But no, I think I watched a lot of American TV. I think I was very influenced by that as a kid. Perhaps.
Well, I've always admired people like you that are really gifted with languages. When I speak Russian, my accent is very strong and doesn't really blend so well. My wife is the same. She's like you. Not, you can tell she's foreign, but it's very clean. Some people can just pick up accents really well.
Yeah, I'm good with accents. I am horrible with language. Like now, if I had to learn a third language, which I'm really interested in learning a few languages, but my wife is amazing at it. She knows like 5 languages. For me, like a third language now would be not impossible, but extremely difficult.
Yeah. So how about in Israel versus America? Because Israel has a big startup scene. There are a lot of business people, a lot of entrepreneurs. How would you compare the two?
Israel is very out of the box thinking. I think that's why you have a lot of people in the startup scene. There's this collective idea that you're not going to tell me the way things work. I'm going to figure out and I'm going to build something else, right? Like that's just, it's in the character, it's in the DNA of Israel. But with that being said, it's a very small country, not a big market. So everything they do, not everything, for the most part, most things they do, they export either to Europe or to the US because those are the big markets.
Yeah. It just seems like such a thriving place. I've only been there once, and the plan was to be back there again this last spring.
Okay.
I will get there.
You should.
Make videos. Yeah, I had some inroads to it was going to do Israel and then Palestine. I was going to go deep on both sides.
Yeah, that's something that I always get annoyed by. I'll tell you why. Because there seems to be this people are not capable to divorce the political and the country, right? Like if you're when people go to Romania or to China or to any other country, they don't weave the whole political situation and all the problems. But for
Yeah.
some reason with Israel, people are not able to divorce themselves from the political issues with the country. So no one ever goes there and just does like a travel thing. It's always politically involved.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's only for Israel. So
Well, I would like to do it maybe in a way you would like, where I'm not going in on the political angle saying who's right or wrong, who deserves this, deserves that, just going into people's stories and their lives.
yeah. And I think you would do it well because you do that very well. Like you rarely go political. You're very not judgmental. You just let people tell their story, which is, I think, why your channel is so popular and why people are attracted to the videos.
Hmm. You know, it's interesting. I did an interview with this Hasidic Jewish magazine just this last week, and the journalist said to me, he said, pretty much what you just said. And he's like, well, you don't come in with an angle and you're not trying to push your ways upon, and he thought it was like such a rare thing. And I don't even, it almost like surprised me because it's like, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Aren't you supposed to, as an outsider, go and let people talk, hear what they have to say? You don't have to agree with them with everything. That's impossible to begin with. And it's a bit narcissistic to think everyone's going to agree with, exactly what you think. And let them tell their story and let the story unfold, how it's going to unfold, and just post it like that. And I'm not a journalist. I don't pretend to be a journalist, but it seems like it's such a rarity, right? And he was like so thankful because the Hasidic community only gets negative press.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And again, back to the apartment story, there are bad things that happen there and there are good things that happen there.
100%.
I showed what I saw. And there's a lot to learn from that community, actually. I was quite surprised. They have, if you get hurt, there's an ambulance service that comes within 120 seconds.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to shoot a video on that next week. The community is very, very tight. You're in the middle of New York City and nobody's all distracted by devices. And there's, you have a connectivity that a lot of people are longing for. And I'm not saying I can't become Hasidic, I'm not Jewish. And I'm not saying if I was, I would want to become, but I can respect and admire some of the attributes of their culture.
Yeah.
And, there's no perfect way to do it. Life, that is, right? Like the average American has some things figured out, but they're missing on some things.
100%.
And it's almost like the Hasidics had everything that I don't have, they sort of had.
Yeah.
Everything I have, they sort of didn't have, let's say. And so I just tried to capture that on camera. And the fact that that's a surprise that you can do that and not be an ass, I guess. It's like, do you have to be a total ass? Is that the whole goal now with media? You have to just like try to rip someone apart?
I think so. I think it's less, we'll go in and we'll figure out what happens on the ground and then we'll tell the story. I think now we have a certain agenda. We already have an idea how we feel about XYZ, whoever the people are, right? Whoever the story is. Like if we're a lefty mainstream media channel and we're going to cover Republicans, we already know exactly how the story is going to play out, and vice versa, right? There's no Fox isn't going to give a Democrat an amazing story, and so that's why I think you actually and people like you. There's a lot of people right now, and I think people are thirsty for that type of information. If you look at Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, a lot of podcasters. People go to them for their news because they don't trust the mainstream media that much anymore because they know they are very agenda driven. They're very political, and they are a lot of times backed by corporate donors with certain agendas.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I go to the mainstream media just to see how, what say the majority are seeing, how they're interpreting the world. And I think history is going to judge these people very poorly.
I agree.
these journalists and these companies, because they have a responsibility in society. Yeah, you can say CNN is just a business and they're out to make money and make their shareholders happy and all that stuff. But no, I think that's a cop out. They have a responsibility to not, can I swear on this?
Go ahead.
To not fuck with our heads. I think as a community, a world community, of course there's going to be angles and opinions.
Yeah.
But when it's gone this extreme with journalism, where you're guaranteed to get a certain narrative on one versus the other, most of it's very left-leaning now. Mm-hmm. It's quite unbelievable that this is acceptable and not totally called out as being total bullshit. And maybe it is, right? You said, I think Joe Rogan's doing more good for the world than probably anyone.
100%. I think platforms like Joe, and Joe he happens to be the biggest, but he's also been getting a lot of pushback. People don't like his opinions. He doesn't care. He's got fuck you money. He's at a point where his life where he can just give his opinions and have the type of guests that he wants to have on. And if people want, they'll tune in, and people do. I think he gets anywhere from 1 to 10 million views per episode.
Yeah.
So he's just, and look, no one's completely unbiased. We're all human. We all have our biases, but
yeah,
he just seems to be open to having a conversation. And again, like we're doing right now, when you talk to someone for an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, you can really get to the bottom. And even if you don't agree on everything, you still can talk, versus what the media does is they'll just get sound bites.
Yeah.
Like just as an example, and I'm not a fan of Trump by any means. I do not like him at all, just to preface this. But his whole thing, what he said about there was good people on both sides. If you listen to the whole thing, that was taken completely out of context. He literally denounced them before, but everyone ran on that because that was a soundbite.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, that dishonesty is what bothers me.
Yeah, he's an unsavory guy. He's an uncouth dude. He is who he is. He speaks how he speaks. He tweets how he tweets. But yeah, to be fair, I mean, he's been put out of context so many times.
Yeah.
They just push him until he blows up in a way. Then they capture that soundbite and then plug it into the story. And as a content creator, you realize how much power you have as a storyteller.
Yeah,
like I could have honestly edited the Hasidic Jew series that I just did. I could have edited it so it was such a terrible environment and everything sucked about it. You have that power. That's what I think. People who are not in this business, I wish there was a class or some way to teach. Actually, I had a class in college called The Principles of Persuasion that sort of touched on these topics. But yeah, we're all getting driven a message. I have an agenda, everyone has an agenda. My agenda is, I was told the world was a dark hole for the most part growing up in America. Most of it sucked. The Middle East is terrible, all these things. I found a different truth. I see a light side in a lot of these places and I want to show them. That's my agenda.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that it's frustrating that there's a whole, half of the world that is almost inaccessible to us because of politics, because of religion or conflict. But seeing you go to these places, and I'm not saying like, I'm going to jump on a flight the next day. I'm cautious, but it definitely gave me a whole different perspective on these places.
Yeah. In the last series I was with this guy named Shlomi. He's an Hasidic Jew. He travels to the Middle East. He's been to Saudi Arabia as a Hasidic Jew. I mean, that's
wild.
It's wild. Like, and when he's in the Emirates, he's dressing. He doesn't in Saudi. He said that's going to be a little bit extreme, but in everywhere else in the Middle East, he dresses in his Hasidic ways.
Yeah. That's wild.
And he said nothing but good experiences. Of course, something can happen, but yeah, we're fed a bunch of BS for the most part.
Yeah, there's they just signed the Abraham Accords in the Middle East and at UAE, Bahrain, and Israel. and Israelis can finally travel there for the first time. And for me, that's something that always kind of bothered me. I was like, there's all these beautiful places around me because you can't travel to any of them because there's no peace with any of these countries. And finally, when there's an actual peace, like unilateral agreement, financial agreements, direct flights, which is unheard of. And the fact that we can now go there, I have to be honest, I was so happy. Like, finally, I can go to another place outside of Turkey, actually, in the Middle East. So I was extremely happy, and that's someplace I'm definitely, it's definitely on my bucket list for 2021 or 2022, depending how COVID plays out.
That's great. Do you think a lot of Israelis are like you? They
100%. 100%. Yeah. They would love nothing more than to have peace with everyone in the region. Go try their hummus. Go, go travel to those countries.
Right.
They would love it. And again, there's never 100%, but I would say overwhelming majority. Yeah.
Do you think the youth is, say, under 30 is different than over 30 with this?
I think they would be the higher percentage of people that would want that would be younger.
Okay.
Yeah. That's probably how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a crazy time, man. What so I want to get to a little bit. So, like we said earlier, you were in Ukraine for the last 4 years, correct?
Yes.
What were you doing there for the most part?
So I had a business in the States. I was running from there just online, but my reasoning for being there was I travel a lot. In the West Coast of America is very far from everything.
Yeah.
And I visited a friend there, an American guy that lived in Kiev before I moved. And I actually told him to move there because he's looking to do a startup and he needed developers and he couldn't pay his Silicon Valley prices. And he's an adventurous guy. I said, why don't you just go to Ukraine? You'll get a developer way cheaper and have an interesting life experience. And so I visited him. And when I was leaving, he said, you told me to move here. Why don't you move here? And I flew back to San Francisco. And by the time I landed, I had wheels in motion. And so the reason was more of, looking back on it, it's sort of like, wow, I can't believe I did that. But it was just, I could work from a computer. I could, put my costs at 1/4. Now the world was open. Istanbul's an hour and 45 minutes versus 12 hours.
Yeah.
Or Middle East or Europe's all there. And I look at life as it's, very cliche, but it's a book, right? And I wanted to add another interesting experience. And if I can live in a country, it's always different traveling than living. And if I could have that experience, you've lived in other countries. You learn so much about your own country. You learn so much about the country you're in, and then you learn so much about yourself. I think it's an ultimate teacher is being able to have that experience. If someone can, you can always go back, most likely, unless you're leaving a country where you can't go back.
Yeah.
And I didn't see I just thought, if it doesn't work out, then I'll just go home. Big deal. Not a big deal. And so it ended up being 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was cool because this is what started all my YouTube content and my video content. And this is what I'm meant to be doing. And I'm finally getting into it in my 40s. I had a business that while it provided me income and allowed me to do what I wanted to do, did I love it? No. I want to provide a great service and everything. And I took pride in that. But as far as was it my calling? No, not at all. Yeah. And so it was a risk. I moved in there and didn't really have anything set up, and then things unfolded. And so
you're doing this full time now?
I'm full time. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then finally it's paying off. Financially, I can support my life. YouTube ad revenue goes up and down, but it's working out well at the moment. So it's
Patreon, stuff like that.
Patreon, I don't have I haven't put too much energy into that, and I'm going to start doing more. But it's YouTube ad revenue, and Facebook, I got demonetized, which was my whole, that's a long story. But now I'm monetized again.
Okay.
But it's mostly YouTube. Wow. And I feel like I'm just at the start of this journey. I would like to get I'm going to do an affiliate in my next video or one of my next videos. I got a agreement set up with them, and who knows exactly. I'm allowed to. I'm paying all my bills and living the life I want to live, and I'm doing what I want to do. Now, with that said, after this conversation with you, I got to sit down and edit, and that doesn't always get me excited. I there's too much editing time for my liking, but with whatever you're doing, there's stuff that, it's not always fun. It's not always great.
Yeah.
But the overall, I'm happy with what it is.
Yeah. But if you have some Ukrainian that can edit for you for cheap, and that allows you to utilize your time better, you can easily do that. No? Or you don't trust someone enough to have your vision of how you want the video to be potentially.
Yeah, here's a problem I have. It's look, if you're doing 5 ways to do this, or you have more of a simple or established format, yes. My edits are all about nuance, and it's all so much dialogue. And someone else is going to see things different than I see them. I would love to get to the stage where I worked with, say, a producer, and we could work on these concepts, and I was mostly out of the editing. But there are a lot of things that could throw things off in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I can't expect someone to know what's inside of my head exactly. It sounds like a control thing, maybe, like I'm trying to control it exactly. And I am, I guess. But I've just tried it before, and it didn't work out well.
It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough one. If you do a long form podcast like this, you're not making any cuts. You could let someone do all your post-production. Mm-hmm. There's not much to it. They might clean up the audio, might cut something here and there or whatever. But with this stuff, I'm taking all these hours of footage, and I have to condense it down to like 20, 25 minutes. So you got to kill it's a challenge.
It's funny though, if you think about it, because I don't know. I'm assuming you're just using some. It's not some high tech camera. It's like probably like a regular
GoPro.
It's a GoPro.
Yeah.
All right. So the whole thing is just like, you could have, and this is applicable for a lot of other things as for entrepreneurs or people that start businesses or a YouTube channel. But like in theory, you could have done this 10 years ago, right? But for some reason, something clicked in your head a couple of years ago, because you didn't need to invest a lot of money. You didn't need to build, something in.
I thought I did though. That's the thing. Yeah.
But that's what's beautiful. It's so simple. Like you just go with the GoPro, and something within you just clicked, and you started making these videos a couple of years ago, and now you have a large following and a lot of people that love those videos. But again, it's you. It's not like you don't need a lot of high tech stuff. You don't need a lot of investment. Just something within you clicked.
Yeah, I did it with a phone at first. So here's the thing, though. The technology is now at the point, the GoPro, it's not going to be the best audio, but it's good enough to work.
Yeah.
And the reason I use the GoPro is because, I don't have it in me to put a massive DSL in my face with a big shotgun mic and walk around. That's just, I just can't do that. I just don't want to do that, right?
Yeah. Too much attention.
That's one thing. Secondly, when I turn that camera and say I come up on you and we're in the street, we don't need each other, and I have a big camera with a nice lens and a shotgun mic, your reaction is going to be totally different than if I have a little GoPro just hovering around my chest.
Yeah.
See, that's the beauty of it, because my whole shtick is to get authentic, real interactions with people and let them come out on camera naturally. And the bigger the camera, the more people seem to clam up. And that's why if I had like a cameraman behind me and a crew, I wouldn't have been able to get into these homes that I just got in this last series in the Hasidic part of Brooklyn. There's no way I would have gotten into these places or these spaces. They would have said, "Nah, I'm not going to do this." But since it looks so like I'm like a tourist, right, with a GoPro, it doesn't look serious.
Yeah. That
enables the content to be what it's going to be. So what I lose on that is sometimes audio quality, and I have to put subtitles in occasionally.
Yeah.
The actual picture of the GoPro is pretty good these days. It's actually pretty clear.
Yeah.
And there's good Steadicam feature built into it. So that's why I do the GoPro. But 10 years ago, that technology wasn't there though, too.
Yeah.
You got to look at it this way. There's no way to do it 10 years ago like this.
Yeah.
This is just being able to happen.
Yeah. But so how do you come up with, just as an example, the Hasidic Jews, how do you come up with the idea of, I want to go, I want to talk to them, I want to somehow not infiltrate, because that sounds a little bad, but I want to infiltrate in the way that I want to get their story out and I want to talk to them, because this is a very insular community. They don't really talk to outsiders, right? Even if like I'm, if I'm Jewish, but I'm secular / atheist, they're not really looking to interact too much. They kind of stick to their own. So A, how did you reach out to the guy that kind of showed you around? And B, how did the whole idea come about?
So I was lucky with this. When he reached out to me on Instagram, said, I would love you. He saw my content in Saudi and he said, hey, I would love to bring you into the Hasidic community. Wow. So I got lucky. I got super lucky. It doesn't always work that easily. So that's the only way into the Hasidic community. There's no way I would have gotten the access I got, or I would have walked around the street as an outsider talking about, the Hasidic as without much knowledge. And that would have been a terrible video. So I was lucky. I was super lucky to meet Shlomi. Other times I might go into a country. I want to capture that first. I want to bring the viewers with me through my missteps, let's say, through my unknowingness of everything. I want them to be in on that adventure. So like Saudi Arabia, I wanted to go in, have no plans the first day, and just see what I could get into. And so I'm a total novice. Mm-hmm. Even in that video, I'm wearing I just noticed after in the edit, I'm like, I had a string on my head. That's how there's like some string. I don't know where it came from, but it was on my head for half the video. And that's how out of place I was.
That's funny.
And I want people to feel that, not the string on the head, but I want people to feel that from the first moment to what happens to when I get into the car with this guy to what we get into and where the day ends up. Yeah. And then there are other videos like I planned with this woman to drive with her, because woman driving in Saudi is something new in the last couple of years. That was actually really hard to get. That was a really hard video to get. I took me like 5 people to go through to get that. Wow. So it just depends. It really depends. But I got lucky with the Hasidic community for sure.
So do you have like fixers in certain places where you go that help you out, or it's literally just you maybe doing a little bit of research in advance and then dropping and seeing what the beat on the sheet is like?
Yeah, I'm trying to be more organized with it now, but not too organized, because sometimes you can get into a spontaneous situation with a local that's way better than say you planned to meet someone. Maybe they're not exceptional on camera. Yeah. And even though you planned all that out, it's actually not as interesting of a video as the guy that I randomly met up somewhere. Yeah. And that's the struggle and the challenge in it, because I'm always worried I won't get it. I won't get a good story. And some videos are better than others. And that's like, there's a stress for me. It's an internal thing. I'm like stressed in the sense like, okay, I gotta get something good out of this, right? Yeah. It's a failed mission. But again, if it's all planned out, then it loses that essence that I'm trying to grab. So that's my strategy.
Yeah. And I think I appreciate it. I'm sure people appreciate a lot of videos nowadays. It'll almost start off with like a trailer of what happens in the video, and they'll make it as if it's something scandalous happened. Right. And then you kind of have to watch the whole video, and that part, that the trailer, when the beginning, it happens at the end. And then when you see the actual bit, it's actually nothing. It's kind of waited the whole video just to watch nothing. And that, it's a very clickbaity type of thing. And they'll put like a thumbnail on the thing that makes it look, the whole thing's just very clickbaity and very annoying. And I like authenticity. I'm really drawn to authenticity. So I like it that don't have any of that shit. That's what I like.
Oh, it's good to hear, because I don't know. Sometimes I put stuff in the beginning because you got to do a little teaser, and I hope it's like lives up to it.
Yeah.
But my thumbnails suck for the most part. I just take a screenshot of the video. I'm not a graphic design guy. I don't want to put a bunch of colors and things to get everyone excited. And maybe that's a bad thing, but I just, yeah.
Oh, you're at, I think at least you're at a point where you've built a relationship with your viewer where they know what to expect. So you don't have to have the flashy things. You don't have to have a clickbaity title. They know what to expect when they come to your videos. So I think you're at that point.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I hope so.
You had a video, which honestly, out of all the places, this was for me the most disturbing, where you were in Vermont and you went to this, it was like a BLM and Antifa, I don't know, event or sit down that was happening in, what city was this?
Burlington.
And you were just there like you always are, just asking questions. And people were very aggressive. And this woman called you a Nazi. And, I feel like that. And then at the end, you said that people in Ukraine feel more comfortable talking on camera than people in the US, which is ironic because in the US, the Constitution allows you free speech. And that Constitution doesn't exist in a majority of other countries.
Yeah, it was interesting. So coming back to the US this time was definitely eye-opening. And coming back into Vermont, this is where I grew up and my mom lives there. It was, so I was going to make sort of a nice video about Vermont, how it's different than the rest of America. It's sort of like the Slovenia. If you've been to Slovenia in Europe, it's like the green rolling hill, very cutesy type place.
Sound of music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And actually, the more I thought about that video, I'm like, this is sort of boring. It's not really my style anymore. I don't want to just do travel vlogs. I want them to have something in them a little bit more. And I'm noticing Black Lives Matter signs everywhere. And this is the whitest state in America. And I'm seeing them in front of houses, very expensive houses. And I was just like, I want to get into this story. What's going on? I understand what BLM is. I actually started researching on what the movement is. Mm-hmm. And I started to wonder, do many of these people know, like, I understand Black Lives Matter, the concept, of course. Anyone that's not a racist ass understands this. But the actual movement and who's behind the movement, do these people really even understand what this is all about? And then I started digging in deeper. And on these signs, they had the same font, but different websites. I saw a couple different websites. And the websites bring you down different rabbit holes. And one group, it was pretty much all white women. And my whole point of my video is like, guys, if you're going to support something, know what you're supporting exactly. And if that's what you're supporting, then great. But you should probably have a little bit of education on what you're supporting. Yeah. And if you're sending donations to Black Lives Matter, the group, be careful what website you go. And, there are a lot of groups out there taking money. And do you know where it's going? That's not what I said overtly. I just tried to get people to see what's going on. And I met this one Black guy named David. He talked about his thoughts on BLM in the state of America right now. And it was super interesting. He was awesome. He was fantastic. Yeah. And then I went into this park where there was a big, sit out and BLM flags hanging. It was right across from the police station. I went in, honestly, I want to know what you guys stand for, what you're all about, what you're trying to accomplish here. I'm just interested. And it was definitely a hostile environment. It was what it was, but what's my point of this? Yeah, it was weird coming back into this when, how do I say this? So I went to the South Bronx the week after. I did a video in there. Mm-hmm. And I wish journalists would ask this question. Why are there more BLM signs in the whitest state in America than in this black neighborhood? One of the blackest neighborhoods, probably, the South Bronx of New York City. Mm-hmm. Can somebody explain that? And this isn't saying anything other than I'm curious.
Yeah.
Why don't we go into these topics a little deeper? Why is this? And Yeah, it's just, I don't know why, to be honest, totally. It's, and I just wanted to explore that topic a little. And that video was a little bit tense at times and uncomfortable, but yeah, it was what it was. That's what I saw in one day searching for the truth in Vermont of what people are doing behind this movement and what it's all about.
Yeah, it's become very uncomfortable here, and it's true what you said. Those questions, it's fair to ask questions. It's fair to ask, why did every minority group vote for Trump more than in the previous election? Right?
Yeah,
It like doubled. Almost every single minority doubled their percentage of votes in Trump. And there seems to be a hijacking of, again, I don't know. I'm sure this is because of social media, Twitter, and the echo chambers that it creates and how it divides people based on their political affiliation. I'm sure it's the media, how divisive they've become, and perhaps throw COVID into the mix and Trump into the mix, and just this perfect storm of shit that just has occurred this year, where people have just become so extreme. But the point that is the most revolting in a way was how that woman so easily just called you a Nazi, right? Like, who are you? How do I know you're not a Nazi sitting there? And that's the most annoying part. Like, and people have been, their jobs have been affected. It's just they got death threats from asking questions sometimes online, right? Yeah. Naive questions at times, sometimes maybe not naive, but they've just been getting bombarded. And it's so easy to call someone a Nazi or racist now that there's no way to there's no recourse back from that. Once you get called that for a random thing that you could have said, that's it. You're done. There's no going back. And that's the problem now.
Yeah, I think, well, the meaning of the word is diluting. That's the problem. If everything and everyone's a racist, then it doesn't mean anything anymore. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. I search the world and put myself voluntarily in places where I'm the only white guy because I'm just interested and fascinated. I want to learn more about their culture. Yeah. And so the fact that she calls me, it's just funny, and I don't take it personally at all. It's just idiotic. Right. And it's just it's the pain point in the culture, and it's an easy weapon to use on people. And that's why when you said people in America don't want to talk, white people are scared to talk on camera, is because of this. And I think that's sad. I think that's really it's unbelievable, actually, that they're that scared to talk. Not everyone, but a lot of tell me about this and what you're standing for and whatnot. And it's just, everyone's trying to do this politically correct thing without being seen as out of line. And if people are losing jobs because they want to ask questions or understand something better, that's unbelievable. That's why I'd never do well in a corporate setting.
Yeah.
Because I won't snap in that environment.
Yeah.
So, and when you travel the world, does racism exist in America? Yes, for sure. And is there a bad history between blacks and whites in America? Yeah, obviously. Has it gotten better in the macro? Definitely. And when you compare to the world, America is one of the least racist places.
Easily.
Like, try being Afghan in Iran. Good luck with that. Try being Iranian in Turkey. See how you're perceived, how you're received. Being in Italy as an African, are you kidding me? No. Are you? These people that are shouting America's the most racist place have no experience in the world. They don't have anything they're comparing it to. Mm-hmm. Moronic. It's idiotic. It's unbelievable. Yeah. And so it's easy just to shout all these words because you're pissed at things, but they have nothing to do with fact. Every Uber driver I've ever asked in San Francisco when I lived here before, a lot of Middle Eastern Uber drivers, I asked their story. I get into conversations with them. Many of them lived in Europe before the States. Every one of them told me they like the States better and it's less racist. again, doesn't mean the U.S. doesn't have problems with racism, and there aren't racist assholes in the country. Of course there are, and that's just part of the human condition. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
Humans are tribal.
Yeah.
And then the ones that are traumatized or idiotic or whatever take it to the next level, and they're racist. So that lady in the park calling me a Nazi skinhead, well, if your whole movement is about non-racism being, then doesn't make any sense here.
Yeah.
Because you're showing racism towards me. I don't take it personally. I think it's just unbelievably stupid. I just think like she's an unhappy person, and it's easy to throw a label around. I think this will change, though. I think the pendulum is swinging so hard one way, it will come back, because it's just getting unbelievable, And so these cops they're protesting against the police in Burlington, and one person was killed, and there was some police abuse. And I asked, what color was the guy that got killed? Oh, he was white. Okay. And then I looked on the body cam footage of what happened. And the guy attacked the cop. The cop fought back. The guy died 3 days later. It's a terrible incident. But you don't punch a cop in the face and expect nothing to happen. Try doing that in Israel, any country in the world, and see what the cops do.
Yeah.
And it's not like the cop tried to kill the guy. I don't know if he died from the actual abuse or pre-existing conditions. I'm sorry. It's terrible that happened. That's undeniable. But the fact is, everyone wants to look at that 15-second clip, and all the Vermont press just shows that 15-second clip. They talk about how bad the cop was. Nobody wants to look at that body cam footage.
Mm-hmm.
I think BLM was actually behind starting body cam footage on cops. I think, that's a good thing about them. I think that's great to have body cam footage.
100%.
But if people aren't going to actually watch it and make their opinions without watching it, then it's sort of useless.
Yeah. Well, there was another story a few years back of Tony Timpa.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's the same story. It's what happened to George Floyd. So, and if you look at people who die at the hand of cops, the number of white people in this country, it's double. So more white people die by the hand of cops than black people. And even if you take black people and Latino together, it's still not as much as white people. So I don't think there's systematic racism. I think you have a cop problem. You have cops that are not trained. You also have a gun problem. You have people you have way too many guns in this country. And if you're a cop sometimes and you see someone, there was a video that came out a few weeks back where these two cops were trying to get this guy out of a car, and he was resisting. And he was like, no. He gets out the car. He had a gun. As soon as he gets out the car, bam, bam, shot both cops, ran away. Right. So,
okay. Was that shown on CNN or no?
I don't know.
Be interesting.
Probably not. Right. Because this
doesn't fit the story.
This happens all the time. They just pick the ones that fit their narrative. So I do think, I think there's a problem? Yes, I think there's a problem with cops. And again, like I also, by the way, I watched the whole George Floyd video, the whole thing. It's like 20 minutes.
I watched some hour-long version of that.
Yeah. And I don't see, it's horrific. Like he should not have, obviously, it shouldn't have ended this way, but there's nothing that I can point out that I can say, you know what? They acted in a racist manner. They had specific grudge against him because he was African-American. There's nothing in that to indicate it. It just seems like cops who are not trained well. And the same with the Tony Timpa story. Like, it's even worse. They're laughing about it afterwards. And Tony Timpa is a white guy, and he was drunk, and they just they're ill-equipped to handle these cases at times. So I think there's a problem with cops, and I don't think you need to defund them. I actually think you need to hire better cops, equip them better, give them martial arts training, so these type of things don't happen again. Defunding the police, that no place with high crime wants you to defund the police. That just doesn't exist.
No, go to places where the police department isn't working and is totally corrupt, then those places suck. I've been to them. It's not fun.
Yeah.
You don't want that. But it's like policemen are like any other, any other profession, right? So there are bad cooks. There are bad painters. There are bad everything.
Yeah.
The goal is to make them better. Like I don't believe in defunding it. Yeah, higher training, more incentive, get better people. Nobody likes the ass cop.
No.
I mean, we grew up hating cop. We always called them pigs when we were kids. We're jumping the pool and they're chasing us, and it was a game, right?
Yeah.
But now that I'm 43, I have a little more respect for the rule of law, because to have this notion that we're all just going to be cool if the police aren't around is insanity.
Yep.
That's someone who doesn't have any experience anywhere in the world. Go to these places where that's not the case. Society takes on a different form, and it's not a healthy one.
There's a vacuum, right?
There's a vacuum.
It's a vacuum.
Exactly. And you want a society where you don't have to pay out. There's going to be corruption in everything, unfortunately, but you want a society where you don't pay off the cop for petty things in life, and you don't have to in America. You get pulled over, you can't pay off the cop.
Yeah.
Ukraine, you do.
Yeah.
Ukraine, whoever has the most money wins in the law. In America, too, unfortunately, to some degree. O.J. Simpson got off.
Yeah. No, I mean, if you're wealthy, it's better to be wealthy than poor anywhere in the world. It's just a fact.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think that people who potentially haven't traveled enough, and they say that the U.S. is the worst, I don't know, the most racist or the most corrupt or the most, anti-Semitic, whatever it is, right? Pick your poison. They just haven't been out enough, man. And maybe, I've been to Italy and England and France. No, keep traveling, like keep going. There's a lot, majority of the world is far, far, far worse.
Yeah, and traveling's always different. You have those rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
What I absolutely love about America right now, okay, this is probably not what people are thinking of, but get this: clean water, clean air, clean food.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're talking the bottom of Maslow's pyramid. Mm-hmm. That's unbelievably nice. Because as you're a tourist, you don't notice this stuff. But years after years, I love Ukraine for many things, but the ecology there is whacked.
Really?
And I was getting terrible headaches. They have no catalytic, it's the cars that don't pass emission standards in Western Europe go to Ukraine. The old trucks, these Russian Kamazes, they don't have catalytic converters, right? They're just spewing crap into the air. That's Ukraine. And so you're constantly taking in shit air on the streets. Wow. And again, I never noticed it until like after a year. And you fill up your bathtub sometimes. Sometimes it's green. Sometimes it takes on another color.
Oh.
And the problem is there are no authorities there that are, I'm not going to say no, but things can be bought off easily.
Yeah.
And so when I come back to California and this night I'm smelling eucalyptus instead of the tailpipe of some vehicle, and I'm in a city, I just want to like embrace it.
Yeah.
And so those simple things just to start. Then despite the craziness right now, it is an open culture in the sense that it's a high trust culture. The whole concept of writing a check, even though we don't do it anymore, is so foreign to so many places. Wait, you have this piece of paper and you write it and then you're saying you're going to pay them somehow through that? Mm-hmm. It's insanity, right? So
that's all that is. That's all that is. It's trust, right? Like I trust that this piece of tender holds some sort of a value, but that doesn't exist there, you're saying?
Yeah, the check writing thing isn't going to exist. I mean, other parts, I don't know what countries checks exist in, but just little details like that. And now I will say the bum situation here is unbelievable in San Francisco. And I don't know what the government is thinking with this one, because they're just providing things, but not really providing solutions. Mm. And so, I'm not the guy that says, you know what? I hate when people say one country is the best. That's annoying because it depends who you are and what you value.
Yeah.
You know, the best country for you might be Germany. Or it could say you grew up in Switzerland, you have a lot of money in your family and you live on Lake Zurich and, you know, you got all of a sudden going to start over in America and your life's going to be better. Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it really depends, the whole best thing. But for me as an entrepreneur, as like a self-driven, motivated person, that likes a lot of cultural stimulation. I love all the cultural stimulation here. You take all the animals from the zoo, you put them in one cage, and they pretty much get along, despite what CNN and Fox are showing us. Actually, it's a really wacky experiment in humanity where you take all these different tribes and intermingle them, and it works.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's art.
Same in New York. Same as New York.
New York is amazing for that.
Yeah.
I mean, New York's probably the top example of that, right?
The most culturally diverse, food-wise, culture-wise. You meet, like, there's interracial couples are probably, I don't know if they're the majority, but it's a good percentage. Just you have everything from everyone and you get to enjoy other cultures, and it's amazing. That's why I think one of the big perks of being in New York.
Oh yeah, and if you're a racist person, I mean, the whole concept of racism there is just moronic because your life would just be absolute misery because every day you're intermingling with everyone.
Yeah.
Right. So you either, if you are that person, you have to get over it quickly and grow up, or just be, you know, or leave. I would think.
Yeah.
Because I just find it's like the most unremarkable feature of a person. Like where you're from. I don't care if you're from Israel or Canada or the US. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You see, you're a cool guy. I'm enjoying the conversation. This is what matters.
Yeah.
Like none of the other, it's just such a insignificant thing. This is my perspective, and this is obviously how I see the world. That's why I don't understand how people can be racist to begin with. Now, when you go to the Balkans, you want to see racism? Holy shit, that's next level. You know, your grandfather killed my grandfather. You're ethnically Albanian. I'm Serb. You know, Orthodox, and I hate you because your you know what I mean? Like that stuff goes layers deep.
Yeah.
And then you go to Vietnam, where if you think like a country that has a real reason to hate Americans, that's definitely on the top of the list. In zero animosity. Really? And that war happened not that long ago. I mean, they were just, you know, decimated by the US. Total bullshit war. And zero. So it's interesting how some cultures heal different than others, how others hold on to grudges different than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even in Israel, right? Like we go to Austria, we go to Germany, you know, there's Jewish people living in Germany and Austria and even in Ukraine and all these other countries. You know, my grandmother was in the Holocaust. My whole side of my mom's side was decimated in the Holocaust. But right. I mean, that was, you know, that was in the 30s and the 40s. Like that was so long ago. That was, you know, 80, 90 years ago. Why would I hold a grudge towards those people who are almost not alive? There's probably a few people left, but not too many left. It's a new generation.
Yeah.
You have to get over shit. You know, I don't really have any ill will or grudges towards anyone. And that's why it's so distorted. And honestly, I see this here more in the US. Like as a foreigner, everything here is viewed through the lens of race and sex. Literally everything. It's all the time. Really? You don't have that back home. And maybe because we're not as diverse back home, that could be why. But it just feels like everything here is through that lens. Like literally everything, both on the left and on the right. And it's just like, tell me your character, like have a conversation. Like, do I like you? Like that's literally the least interesting thing about you, the color of your skin or your sex. Like, I want to know the person. Are you funny? Are you interesting? Like, are you a good person? Like, those are the things that interest me in people, not the color of their skin. That's literally the least interesting thing about you, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know the solution to this. I think people need to experience more if they have a, look, I haven't felt, I mean, someone called me a Nazi skinhead. I don't even look at it as racism. I just look at it as someone being an idiot.
Yeah.
But I haven't felt it. You know, I haven't lived under a racist narrative. So
Neither is she.
I can't speak. Yeah, I can't speak for anyone else.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
Yeah, but I like to just look, you see things through the glasses you look through, and everyone has different glasses on. And I just don't understand that way of thinking. Therefore, I don't see it as much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For example, if some black guy comes at me and you're inner city and he looks like a dangerous dude and he's got a limp going, like this gangster sort of limp going, and looks at you like in not a good way and his energy is terrible, I want to get the hell away from that person. It has nothing to do with him being black.
Yeah.
Anyone that looks sketchy coming at me, I want to remove myself from. Mm-hmm. Right? It's not a racist thing. It's a sketchy dude thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But in this content, in this space, that could be looked at as racist. No, it's not. It's some sketchy dude that wants something from me.
Yeah.
And not in a good way.
Yeah.
Get away from him.
Have you had, obviously you told me the story with the poison, but have you had other situations where you're like, shit, this is a sketchy situation, like I should probably get out of here, or I don't like how this feels?
Yeah, those have happened. I can't think of anything coming to mind right now. I mean, Iran was a tough shoot this second time because U.S.-Iranian relations are so poor. Mm-hmm. I went in on my Italian passport. Americans can't travel freely around Iran. They needed to go with a government fixer. And I traveled in freely as an Italian. I made sure the embassy knew that before I left. I didn't want to get myself in trouble. But there's a lot of gray zone in Iran. And what some authorities might say, some authorities might take a different way. And it was a tough shoot. I won't get into too much of the detail, but there was definitely following going on. My camera was stolen by a government official. I'm pretty much convinced of. And then it's weird when you think you're being followed, which you are being followed and monitored and watched, what that does to your psychology. You start becoming paranoid with everything. I was doing a video in the hotel room, doing a narration. I hear boots coming down the hallway. And I'm like, shit, are they coming for me? Every little sound and things started. And this was near the end, right before I was about to leave. So nothing happened. But that was like one of those heightened senses of awareness, I'd say. It's like,
that's not fun.
This could go the wrong direction.
Yeah. That's not a fun situation. That's not a fun feeling to have all the time. That parent.
No. And I don't want to say that if someone goes to Iran, they're going to get that. It's, again, I look like a journalist a little. I'm filming things. I got audio equipment. It looks a little weird. I'm American, but I'm in there as an Italian. If someone's paranoid, which, look, that government stayed in place because they're good at what they do, right? And, I could be a potential problem, perceived as one. All I'm there is to show how cool the people are in the culture.
Yeah.
But, some countries, the thing also going in these days with a GoPro and a very minimal setup is you don't have to you look like a tourist. And you don't have to go get journalist permits and all this stuff. Like if you're going to Saudi, I think with a lot of, I'm guessing, I don't know for sure, but if you're going with a lot of equipment and stuff, you probably need some permit, to be a journalist there.
Yeah.
And I sort of bypassed that.
Yeah. Because you're not you're not a journalist. I don't know. Are you, what do you consider yourself? A journalist, a YouTuber, a content creator, a travel show host? I mean, what exactly is it?
I feel like I'm in between a travel vlog and a journalist. I got to come up with a word for it. That's what I want to be considered as, because I'm not a journalist, and I don't want to just be a travel vlogger showing my trip just to show my trip. I don't care about doing that. I'd rather not film that. What I want is to show something that's going to help someone or teach them something or let them see something in a different way. That's what I'm interested in. So I don't know. I'm in between in that sense.
Okay. And I mean, if we take away, because again, like we said, you've been to a lot of authoritarian countries. But if we take away the geopolitics, the religious ideologies, all that stuff, right? And the government, and we just talk about the people.
Yeah.
What have been some of your takeaways when you go to places like Tajikistan or Eritrea or Saudi Arabia or Iran, and just people-wise, not, the government and all the politics of the area?
It's interesting. Sometimes the places with the shittiest governments have the coolest people. I don't know how that works out. For example, like the most open people, if you go to Iran or if you go to Saudi or if you go to Tajikistan, Syria, there's some innocent warmness in the people there in all these countries. I don't get it. I haven't made that connection yet. But throughout the world, people are all the same and all different, in the sense they're all the same. They want the same things. They just sometimes have different ways about getting it, like religion can be the guide to life.
Yeah.
People are using different religions in different places. Spirituality, meditate, whatever these things are. Everyone's trying to get to a place of more clarity and more peace, I think, uniformly everywhere. And most people are just getting through, just raising their families and getting through the grind of life. Mm-hmm. That's the majority, actually.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There are no bad people. I think 10% or maybe 5% of the world's population are just bad people. And it doesn't matter the country. Now, there are some systems that allow those behaviors to come out more. That's the difference. And then that corrupts other people, maybe. And then the rules change where to survive, you have to do things a certain way. In the 90s in Ukraine, it was just chaos. It was a lot of crime, a lot of gangsters, a lot of mafioso types. You want to survive, maybe you have to play a game you don't want to play.
Yeah.
Are those bad people? I don't know. Some are, some aren't.
Yeah, that's there's something to be said for adapting to your environment. And like you said, when these vacuums are created, a strong man will rise to the top. It doesn't matter if it's a terrorist group or some mafioso guy or I don't know, or the military, but someone will rise. Someone will take the reins. Always.
Of course, yeah. And tell me, in the Middle East, maybe Israel is an exception, what country can survive without what leadership can survive without a hard man in charge?
Yeah,
how does that going to go?
That's a solid question, because that's, I think, something people in the West don't understand. A lot of times I hear this wanting to export the morals and ethics and culture and politics of the West onto the Middle East or onto Africa. And like we said earlier, like that, it doesn't, that copy paste, it doesn't always work. And they don't understand that you need that. Like, it's just what people respect. And I think it's the same in Russia, by the way. I think that's why Putin, I don't know how kosher his whole election was, but people like him for the most part.
He's stability.
Yeah. People like a strong man in those areas.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if your kids can't play soccer on the streets, if you're in the Middle East, if you're in Bashar al-Assad, Syria, and your kids could play soccer on the streets, but now they can't. Mm-hmm. But maybe your voting rights are a little different. It doesn't matter at that point. It's like your kids are living in a prison. Mm-hmm. I want my kids to play football on the streets, soccer, right? Mm-hmm. These are super gray zones. They're very, very complicated.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's safety, I think, will trump everything else. Because if you don't have safety, all the other things that you care about are not going to be able to solidify, to actualize. Yeah. So safety is always key.
And back to what you said about exporting the morals of the West to the Middle East. That's sort of sticky territory too, because are the morals you're exporting Nicki Minaj into Saudi? Is that going to help the moral fabric of Saudi out? You know what I mean? Like, is that going to make it a better? Like, I look at the morals there in some ways are far more advanced. Mm-hmm. than Western culture.
Yeah.
You're not going to have, is it better to have half-naked women influencing young women? Is that a better way? I don't know. I'm not going to be the moral judge here, but it's a little more complicated than just saying, Western morals and values are the right way. Maybe they are for the West. I don't think that, and then there's this process of things opening up on their own time, and you can't force things. You can't force anyone's life to change drastically overnight. That's going to be like too much of a jolt.
Yeah. That's a solid question. Also, I mean, I don't know. I don't think either is correct. I don't think the naked chick flaunting her ass on TV is something people should idolize. And I don't think you should force women to cover up because men can't control themselves. And
Right.
And it's also food wise, right? Like there's a huge export of American fast food into those areas, into Saudi, into UAE. They're bringing Burger King and McDonald's and Popeyes and all the other shitty food. And that's caused a spike in obesity and all the other problems. So it's a tough one. Like you want to bring quote unquote freedom, which I never understood what that means when Americans keep saying freedom, because that's but that's a whole other episode. But when you say freedom, and I don't know, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, what's freedom? Again, if you can vote for your president and you believe it's a fair election, but your kids can't play football and there's no safety, or your vote means nothing, but you have safety in your environment and you feel comfortable with your surroundings, what's freedom?
Yeah.
It's right.
And it's also freedom. Like here, I keep hearing in the US, like, I'm free to do what I want, but you're not really free to do what you want. There's rules and regulations. You can't drive without a seatbelt. You can't drink in public. You can't, here in Connecticut, the rooftops have to be all the same color, like on both sides. So I can't even have like a multicolor roof if I want. There's like so many rules and regulations that we as citizens in the country, in every country, have to follow, right? It's just, it's part of it. So
yeah, if I want to speak about freedom, actually, Ukraine is a very free place. There are very little,
it's corrupt.
There are very little petty rules or regulations.
Yeah.
But I've learned to, maybe not the same colored roof, maybe that's a little bit extreme, but I've learned to actually like a lot of this, like just environmental rules and regulation. Because when it doesn't exist, it affects everyone. You can steal somebody's water and you can buy a bottle of water and get by. But when you steal someone's air, it's pretty heinous act.
Yeah.
And so you want rules and regulations for all those things, because I used to be more of a libertarian in the sense that, the free market will figure this out. And actually it won't. Some strongman asshole will get in charge of some industry and he doesn't give a shit about anybody.
Yeah.
And then that's the narrative. And I saw that in the city, Mariupol. They're just spewing. I mean, just completely poisoning the population.
Wow.
It was like turn of the century London or something. Industrial Revolution, London.
Yeah.
And we're in 2020. He's getting away with it.
Horrific.
Because he can,
Horrific.
Yeah. So I don't know. You need the balance. I don't really stick with either political party, like on party lines. There's some things I really look at. San Francisco, you go over the Golden Gate Bridge and it's all open land.
Yeah.
And that was only because some people fought for that. And I'm sure very left leaning on the liberal side of things.
Yeah.
Thank God. It's beautiful. I love it over there. But then I see this very left-leaning government buying tents and needles for people so they can set up more tents on the streets. And where's the end game in that? Where does this lead to?
Mm-hmm.
I think there's maybe another solution, because I don't think that fosters a better environment. Your kids now can't walk down the street because there are people shooting up. Like, great.
I've heard it's really bad. I haven't been there, but I heard it's really bad. I know a lot of people are leaving.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the thing I can say. Back to what I said earlier. You could shoot 2 stories here. You could shoot 1,000,000 stories here, but 2 stories. I could show a story down on Market Street, right around 7th or 8th, and it's terrible. Or I could show me going to the ocean today. and my whole journey to the ocean and how beautiful it is and how beautiful the ocean is. And they're two separate worlds, but they're both San Francisco.
Yeah.
So I hear this, all over the internet. It's like everyone's leaving California. I mean, yeah, some people have left, but I don't see any vacant homes really. I mean, maybe. I mean, there are a lot more people leaving now than coming in, but I don't see it, just by having my ear to the ground and looking at things. Yeah, we're in weird times. It's COVID. The city does not have the same vibe at all. Restaurants closed inside, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's not as dire as everyone makes it out, but we'll see. Maybe it's my positive outlook on things.
No, it's good. I mean, New York is, it's not the same. It's not dead like people are making it out to be, but there's definitely a lot of, vacant stores. I personally know a lot of people that have left. And again, that's just my experience. Could be that the majority have stayed, and it's a different feel. I'm sure it'll change.
Yeah.
Like it's New York, people will come back 100%, give it a year or two. But right now, it's definitely a little bit of a different feel. Like I can't exactly put my finger on it, but just different.
I'll tell you what, people seem much more paranoid in San Francisco than New York, because I was in New York a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
So with COVID, people are masked up in New York, mostly on the streets, and here everyone's masked up. But here it's like you're outside, there's a breeze going and someone's 20 feet away from you and they're really trying to get away from you more. It's a bit ridiculous, I gotta say. It's really heavy on the fear here. And so biking alone, someone yelled at me for not wearing a mask, biking alone in nature. And everyone's got a different way to look at this thing. And I respect that. But that to me, that goes over a line where you're like, okay, you can live completely paranoid and freaked out. But don't push that shit on me.
Yeah.
I had the cable guy came in here a couple of days ago. He said he went into one house recently. There was a guy in the corner with like a hazmat suit and like a bunch of spray, like 2 spray cans in his hands, like ready to on the triggers.
Yeah.
And he was like in the corner, all freaked out, like trembling and stuff while they fixed his internet. He was like angry at them for fixing the internet. And I was just like, geez, well, if I was the internet worker, I'd be like, well, then don't get your internet fixed.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck you, dude. Go back to the side with your hazmat suit. Maybe try to steal an antenna from the neighbors, see if that works. That's right. The biggest problem, this fear. And again, this is an unpopular opinion. I've said it. Every time I say it, people kind of become quiet. They don't like this opinion. But there's a few countries that have done it very well. I keep screwing it up, but either Taiwan or Singapore have done it very well. It's something like 24 million people, no lockdowns. And something like under 1,000 cases with only a few deaths.
Wow.
So I just, and again, no lockdowns, no masks.
No masks?
No. I was not, they do wear masks. All of them wear masks. Right. No mass propaganda of fear mongering that the government has done. They do contact tracing. They have methods. And I just don't understand, people undervalue, or maybe they don't talk about the side effects of all these businesses shutting down, the side effects of people quarantining in their houses, depression, suicides are going up, domestic abuse is going up, people are losing their businesses that they took years to build. There's just a lot of side effects, and I don't know if quarantining people till and that's the thing. Till when? No one's telling you. In the beginning, it was a month. Now we're close to a year, and they're saying maybe till the second quarter of 2021. People need to eat, man. People need to go to places. People need to socialize. People need to go and what's an essential business? If you're running a business, any business is essential. So I just feel like
essential to your life. Yeah,
exactly. Just let people open up and take as many precautions as possible, obviously. But to close businesses, to tell people to stay at home and not go out, but on the flip side, you have these dummies like on the Republicans that are like, oh, go hug your grandma, she'll be fine. No. Right. So it's like they're on the left, they're trying to scare you to stay home. And on the right, they're telling you everything's fine, go kiss everyone. It's like, I just wish there was just a moderate in the middle saying like, okay, let's do some reasonable steps here. Let's get people back to jobs. Let's get people back. Let's get the economy running. Let's stop with the fear mongering, but educate people on exactly what they need to do. And they just keep giving you this /misinformation, and people are just, they don't know what to do anymore. They're going berserk.
Well, try researching COVID online. It's not the easiest task, right? There's not much. Look, I'm trying to okay, so Florida, they haven't been wearing many masks and everything's open, right? Is this from my understanding?
Mm-hmm.
California is all masked up, at least where I'm living. And a lot of things are closed.
Yeah.
So can we just do some objective numbers and see what's the difference between the two? How about that for journalism? Love to see that. Wouldn't that make sense? To understand there are two different strategies here. How are they paying off? What's the difference?
Yeah.
It's just, you can't find this information. At least I couldn't.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks ago, I spent an hour digging deep on just statistics of things. And again, what numbers can you trust? Well, I did figure out that for my my wife's demographic, she has more of a chance of dying statistically from flu than COVID. Now, I'm not the guy that says COVID doesn't exist. It's not a threat. It doesn't kill people. I know people, you've had COVID, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've known other people that have had COVID. And you'd think the message would be, hey, the best defense against this stuff is to get healthy, to eat well, to eat better. If you're fat, lose some weight. If you have diabetes, or a pre-existing condition of some sort, then you really have to be more careful and isolate yourself. But if you look at if this was a serious pandemic, and my mom was like, well, it is a serious pandemic. Mom, if 99% of people who got it died, that's a serious pandemic. That's holy shit. We have to really get in a cave and hunker down.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like that. And I've read, and I don't know, so this isn't fact-based, but that the virus, the death rates are actually lower than before, as far as the virus is weakening to some degree. It's not as potent as it was. I don't know if this is true or not. But where do you go to find out if this is true? That's the problem. You can't find anything. This is insanity, man. Yeah. It's unbelievable. So and then you can live in fear. The vaccine coming out, this date or that date. I don't believe any of that. I think it's going to be years before it's in the population.
I hope not. I really hope not.
You're going to want to take it when they're unleashing this thing.
I mean, I'm not going to be first in line, but I'll be somewhere in the middle. Although, I don't know. And again, this is something that, and maybe they don't know, so they're not giving us the answer. But initially, I thought if I had it, I'm immune. Now they're saying that's not necessarily the case anymore. So I don't exactly know, where I stand. I'm still trying to be safe. And like I said, we should definitely, we should worry and take care of the weakest of our society. So people with preconditions and elderly, et cetera. And we should all wear masks all the time. I think that's such a small price to pay. If you can go out, just wear masks. And government should probably give out masks. I don't know why they don't give out masks. Everyone should wear masks. I think that should be a mandate. And I know it's very politicized. People don't like it. Again, you're infringing on their freedoms. But dude, you have to wear shoes. You have to wear a T-shirt. Just put a mask on it. It's not the end of the world for the next year. It's really.
What about outside with masks? What's your take on that?
I don't wear masks outside. When I'm outside, not physically in a place, when I'm just walking the street or just going for a run, I don't personally wear a mask. But here there's no people. There's just I barely see two people on my whole run, or when I'm going outside, or when I do a hike.
Yeah, it's if there are no people, and this is what I'm having a hard time understanding here. If there are no people around, or within 30, 40 feet, that's like walking down the street with a condom on. In your pants around, and you're away from everybody, right? In a way.
Yeah, it is. And also, it's, from my understanding, that's not how you get it. You would have to touch a surface, you would have to put it in your mouth. Running next to someone is not a way to contract it, from my understanding. This isn't an airborne disease.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, inside makes sense. Totally get it. If you're in tight packed spaces outside, that makes sense. If you're not near anyone outside, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
And then you get on with your life and you don't get all stressed about everything.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a high risk person, then you keep away from everyone.
Yeah.
Right. But this culture in San Francisco right now is quite unbelievable how just stressed it is. It's not good for anyone's health.
No. And that's what I keep saying. I think the side effects of this are going to be more serious than, and again, like I'm not diminishing, like COVID is, I had it. It's a serious thing. But depression, suicide, losing your business, not being able to see family, a lot of other side effects that people are having from this domestic abuse, etc. Those are also very, very serious. And they just need to look at the whole picture and not just focus solely on COVID. That's just my
opinion. And also I can't imagine having kids right now in and out of schools. That's got to be a nightmare.
So hard for people with kids. So
nightmare. Especially if the parents are working somewhere. What do they do? What if they don't have the money for daycare?
Yeah.
Or how do they do that?
It's hard. And if the grandparents, if you're lucky enough to have grandparents in the vicinity that can help, they're probably scared because that's the biggest thing. It's like you're scared of people around you, like I feel like because my family's back home and my niece, she'll go and she'll meet my mom, and my mom's usually all over her. But now there's this fear, like, oh, this person could get me sick. And that's kind of like the worst part for me. People are just afraid to be around and, oh, are you going to get me sick? Is this person like, I don't know. This distrust, it sucks. It really does.
Yeah, that's why in Ukraine, it was what they've dealt with in the 20th century and even in the 21st century. War, a couple banking crises, revolutions. In the 20th century, Holodomor, which was more dead, arguably, than the Holocaust. I mean, the World War II, this thing in the mentality, at least when I was there, was like it's a mosquito. So you know how much we've been through?
So we're just pussies in the West, right? Like, I eat COVID for breakfast. This is nothing, Blatt.
Yeah. I think everyone needs to complain about something, and it's an honest complaint. This whole COVID thing, but if you're comparing it to those things, then it's not as serious.
Yeah,
like starvation is a different level of seriousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's happening all over the world, right? Yemen, Eritrea, I think I saw, or Ethiopia. There's a conflict happening. So these things are happening all around us. But we are, right now, no one can think about anything else but COVID. But I think that's true. I think we are, again, I don't want this to sound bad because I don't want to diminish COVID, but we are definitely a little bit soft in the West. When you go to East Europe and other places, you're like, people are definitely harder. They're just made of something a little bit stronger.
Their problems are bigger usually. And that's not to say the person in the Tenderloin here in San Francisco who's living on the street, crack addict, his problem isn't huge, because his problem is huge.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if you're going to go averages here, when I was doing this shoot in Ukraine in the countryside, I had a Steadicam device and it broke. And that was my problem that day. And I was really bummed because I had to post a video and I really wanted to get it right. Mm-hmm. Well, the family I was living with had no money and no jobs.
Jesus.
That was their problem. Would they have loved to have my problem? For sure. Right. But everyone's problem is their biggest problem. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so there's, it's like when you're growing up and you say you're abused by your dad or something. And you're like, I'm just giving you an example. You're hit a couple times. And then the guy that's like, his parents stuck him in the closet for 3 years says, that's nothing. You don't know what problems are.
Yeah.
So there's always another degree of problem, and you're only going to calibrate with what you know. And so Americans are, what war touched on this soil, what famine happened here. Again, there are outlying examples like people in the Tenderloin or people really down on their luck. I'm not talking about that person. I'm talking about the person that's never had to worry about food or shelter and now has to worry about COVID. Now this is their biggest problem.
Yeah.
So there's not much global perspective or perspective outside of their world. And maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's easy for me to judge on that and be like, hey, what are you so worried about? I've tried to stick myself in problems just to get, I guess, and suffer more just to get a thicker skin. I think it's important. Like living in this countryside, I remember nights where it was in cells, it was about 95 degrees in the house. And
95 Celsius?
No, Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit, yeah. Okay.
At night, sweating because they didn't want to open the windows up because they were sort of traumatized from bullets and the sounds of gunfire. Yeah. And that's what I think it was. So this house just retained so much heat. And if I opened the window, I could get it down to like 85, but the neighbors were burning their trash and then the air went to hell. So it was like I was in this balance or like, what do I do? I went back and forth a few times. Like I got to cool down a little. Okay, the air's so bad. I'm going to go back and forth. Anyways, my point is that suffering, having that to work with, now gives me a wider range. Let's say when things happen, because it doesn't suck as bad as that.
Yeah.
That's just one example.
Yeah.
But I think if someone's lived in a very good environment, it's important, or maybe they want to go into an environment that's not as good. No, it's temporary. No, it's not going to be fun, but you're going to get a lot out of it. That's what Ukraine did to me, living in that countryside.
Even like if the video you had in India where you're walking with these kids and he's showing you his home, and he's just taking you through these slums, like left, right, like no light coming in, electrical cords everywhere, trash on the street, just the worst of the worst. And then eventually he goes into this little tiny room with a kitchen, and then there's like I think another room on top, and that's like him, his mom, his sister, maybe I don't know, another sibling. It's like 3, 4, 5 people live in a closet essentially.
And the kid's got HIV. And if he tells people around his community, he's looked down upon. Like the kid's got mountains of challenges, but his spirits were high and he was a cool kid.
Yeah.
And then I come home and I look at the space I'm living at in my apartment and I'm like, thank God I got this space. This is amazing. Mm-hmm. And so you have to recalibrate because you get used to your conditions. So if I don't go into an environment like that for the next 10 years, I might start bitching about this space I'm in. And that never ends, right? And especially in this sort of, very hyper competitive climate of San Francisco, where there are so many wealthy people, you can get caught in that silly game of, oh, I don't have enough shit.
Yeah.
And if you're comparing on a world, I think if you're doing what you like to do, that doesn't matter. Like I'm doing what I want to do. Would I want a bigger place in my own place? Sure. But it's really actually, number one is I'm getting to do what I want to do. But I'm never going to feel like that envy because that Indian lesson or the Ukrainian lesson is I like to go back to those just to reset things. Because I think we all fall into that trap, right? Of just getting used to the things. If you get something on a daily basis, it loses its value.
Yeah.
So you gotta reset sometimes.
No, 100%.
At least I do, or I lose my perspective.
No, I think that's super important. I think recalibrating, getting a perspective that your problems are not the worst problems. And that, it's hard sometimes because my problems suck. They're the worst for me, right? You kind of, it's hard to get outside of yourself and realize that on the whole, like it's okay. It's really not that bad. There's a roof over your head. You have hopefully a family that loves you. You have a dog that needs to go pee, and, you're able-bodied. Like there's all these things that you just take for granted, and you only stop taking them for granted once they're gone. If you, God forbid, if you're sick or if you lose a limb or if someone dies, then you're like, oh shit, now I really understand.
Yeah, and we all get dealt a deck of cards. Everyone's got a different deck of cards, right? So
Yeah.
if you're a world traveler and you have English as a native language, that's a good card you just got.
Yeah.
Like you speak English perfectly, so it's not. But I think you know what I mean. If you
course.
didn't speak English, you only spoke Italian, and now you want to go travel the world, it's going to be a bigger challenge. No one's going to know Italian anywhere.
Yeah.
So that's a good card. So you take that card. Now maybe you have a relationship with your family that's terrible, and that's a bad card, and you take that bad card, and whatever it might be, right? And everyone gets their unique deck. The problem is when you try to compare you're looking at what someone's good card is, but you're not looking at the card they didn't get as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's an easy game to get into. And so you get dealt the deck, you do the best you can with that deck, and you move on. That's all you can do. And some of the happier people are the ones that are handicapped. It's weird.
Really?
Right? Like lost a limb or went through cancer and have, realized how precious life is.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. It could, yeah, having that realization, suffering, being close to death, or all these different things. That I think that's why, like, for me, it bothers me when I hear all these blanket statements. You're like, white privilege or all this stupid stuff. It's like, is it really like someone from the Appalachian Mountain living in a hut with no job and, they're having opioid addiction, or you could even, and like you said, like, there's so many different things you could call privilege. Knowing English, privilege, right? Being born in America versus in India or in Africa, it's a privilege. Being close to your family, being able-bodied, like you can just go on and on and on. It just
how privileged was Shaq to be born in America at the time he was born with his genetics?
Yeah,
like that's the gold mine. He just hit it. Basketball is a popular sport. It pays a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He just landed into that. That was a good card.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, some people have better upbringings than others. Some people grow up in better environments. I mean, they're all different colors that went to Harvard, right? I went to TMCC Community College in Reno, Nevada. That was my start. I paid for it, and I'm not talking like it was some hard journey. I'm fortunate to be there. I've had that. And then I went to University of Nevada. You know why? Because it was cheap.
Mm-hmm.
University of Vermont would have, my SATs were terrible in math. I wasn't going to get into a great school. So University of Vermont, it was 20 grand. University of Nevada was like 3. Okay. I'll live in Nevada so I can afford it. And the privilege, some people have it better than others. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But just because you're this white privilege, just because you're white. No, not everyone goes to Stanford and in Berkeley and NYU, right?
100%. I mean,
and those Appalachian stories, that's high on the list. I want to go there this spring and get deep into that world. Those are videos I really want to capture.
Yeah. So that's your next project. Because that was kind of going to be my final question. But what are some up and coming projects you have?
Okay, so next Monday, back to New York City. Okay. Going into the Hasidic world, I have a video with a Hasidic woman. Mm-hmm. I have a video with we're working on with a sex coach. Now, the Hasidic community, they're all virgins when they get together. And they actually have a formalized sex training. And it's not like we're going to be on some training, and it's not like the deep how-to, but we're going to go into a video talking with like a sex coach and how this whole system works.
Oh, that's
then they have and then they have a really interesting outreach program for cancer kids, and also their ambulance services. They like I said, they within 120 seconds, they pick up someone that's injured. They have their own. I'm going into meet with this Jewish guy outside of New York City. He's Hasidic. He's training a militia because there's been more anti-Semitic incidents in his neighborhood. They're actually forming some sort of militia. That's another story. So this is in the near future. This is like the next 7-8 videos. And then I really want to get into the Native American communities. This is a space I know nothing about. It's America's history. And I don't think it's just like the Hasidics. I don't think many people know about Native Americans, like what it's like now in their culture.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to do some Deep South stuff, the white guy that's been left out of society in West Virginia or wherever, those stories.
Yeah.
Right. And if any of your audience has any great ideas or connections in these spaces, then please hit me up, because it's honestly the best way in is through some contact, some local that knows the way.
Yeah. Guys, shoot him. I don't know. What's the best way? DMs on Instagram or emails? What's the best way to contact you?
I don't see all my Instagram. I'm trying not to spend too many hours on that. Email is best, contact@petersantenello.com. But then all my other stuff is just Instagram or YouTube or Facebook is just Peter Santenello, Santenello. But
awesome, man.
Yeah, any one of those channels could probably get to me, but the email is probably the best.
All right. So guys, if you do have some ideas, some connections, feel free to reach out. Also, make sure to follow his YouTube channel. Honestly, it's one of my favorite YouTube channels. I just love the adventure that he goes on, the sincerity, the authenticity, the unknown stories or the unknown areas that he goes into and then comes back with the amazing stories. So make sure to check out his channel. It's really probably one of my favorite ones. Yeah.
Thanks, Roy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I really had a great time. This was easily 2 hours, I think, that went by. Felt fast.
Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. This was great. Hopefully we can do it again in the future, and stay safe out there.
All right. You too.
All right, man. Take care.